Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Luton.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Hello everyone and welcome to your Friday show here on the Rangers Journal, your Rangers News Gers Talk show. I'm joined here with Cammy. Cammy, how are you doing this morning?
Aye, decent mate. No back at work till Tuesday, so from that point of view, life is good. Rangers is obviously doing what Rangers do, and I'm looking forward to talking about it over the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, of course. These Friday shows have a habit of coming after a disappointing Thursday result. Bob, how are you? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been another rollercoaster week in the world of Rangers. So yeah, looking forward to getting into the full week's chat, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So today's show's just really going to be touching on the reaction kind of to last night. I'm sure most people know, but if not, I'll just kind of cover it. Rangers drew 1 each with Braga at Ibrox. Started all right, didn't create many chances, got a penalty, which James Tavernier scored, equaling Ali McCoist's Rangers goal scoring record. The two of them now joint second behind Alfredo Morelos. Rangers started the second half strongly. Yusuf Trimity had a chance to make it 2-0, didn't take it, and then Braga went down to 10 men for an elbow on Nico Raskin. Rangers don't take advantage. Braga go up and get a goal with a bad Nasser Jiger mistake. And Rangers huff and puff, but end up going down to 10 men late on themselves. And now that's 1 point from 5 games in this Europa League phase. So we'll start with you, Bob. What was your sort of takeaways from the game last night? What's your sort of pros and cons?
It was a tough game to watch, Jack. I think being there, I thought we were probably the better of the two teams overall. I certainly didn't think that Braga looked like they were the fifth in the Europa League table. They certainly didn't seem to come out at all, really, until they got the equaliser. At that point, they did kind of show a wee bit of fight and maybe smell blood to come after us a wee bit, but again, never really, I felt anyway, threatened us too much. But again, I think it just comes back to the lack of quality that we've got, both starting and off the bench. It just, getting the penalty, which again, I didn't realise it was going to be a penalty. I think we should have had one before that, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But to get the penalty for the handball to win 1-0 up at half time, I thought second half they'll come out and kind of go for it, but they never really showed that. Kind of held off or held back a wee bit, and then that allowed Braga to come back into the match and get the equaliser. And I'm surprised I've still got a voice, to be honest. The amount I was screaming after it went in through Jiga's header back. After the equaliser went in, his head went down. He should have just been taken off the park. I don't even know if I think we had subs left. I think he should have been taken off for somebody because it just didn't look as if his mind was on the game. I think he was just reliving the incident in his head. So to me, he probably should have been taken out the firing line as soon as the equaliser had went in, because although he went up the park and he kind of had the half a chance that he had from a header, but after that point, he just didn't look as if it was worth anything on the park. So yeah, it was a tough one last night. I think I'm glad that we've got a point. We're off the bottom, but we certainly should have come away with 3 points last night.
Yeah, I remarked to my mate sitting next to me, it was a very, very poor game quality-wise. I think that's probably the worst European game overall quality-wise I've seen at Ibrox. There's been games where we've been poor, but at least the opposition have been up to some sort of standard. So Cammy, obviously 1 point after 5 games. I think we're now 5 points away from the top 24. After the game, James Tavernier said, it's not over yet. Is it?
I think as captain, he's got to say that, to be honest. But it's going to take a hell of a turnaround to qualify from this position. I think the games to this point, I think the starting games before the first 3 games before we played Roma, you should have been sitting with 6-7 points on the board. Get off to a good start. Don't make yourself have to chase it. You know, he's got to say it. Danny Rowell's got to say it. They've got to come out. They can't chuck the towel in, because ultimately there is still 3 games to go. Still got 1 game at Ibrox still, so they've still got to try and encourage people to go along to the final home game. But it's no, Europe's a bit of a distraction, to be honest, for me. I'd rather concentrate on domestic matters and somehow retaining a competitive edge going into January. That's the priority for me over the next few weeks, is just getting through to January. Hopefully Harry Potter brings us a centre half, a centre midfield player, and a goal scorer. If we can do that, we've got a chance of winning the league. But we have to hope we can somehow get through the next few weeks. But Tav, just digressing slightly, James Tavernier, age 34, second in the list of European Hall of Fame, testimonial year, all that sort of stuff. He's still our best player. And I think that says it all, that James Tavernier, 10 years into his Rangers career, and a James Tavernier that's on the downward trajectory, is still our best player. He's still the player that you look to create. He's the only one that shows leadership qualities. So yeah, I feel sorry for him to a point that he's essentially the one that is having to take things forward when his head wants to do it, but his body isn't allowing him to do what he used to be able to do. But he's still the one that never hides and what have you. So I've went off on a bit of a sideways one there, as often happens, Jack. But Europe's done and dusted. We just have to try and get what we can out of the last 3 games, but not hopeful at all. Off the bottom, I mean, how times have changed. Last year we were in the top 8, and we'll go into it's probably not for this podcast, but it is where we are, and this is where the last 6 months, the damage that has been created by poor decisions in recruiting Russell Martin and poor decisions in pretty much every signing that has been made. We haven't improved in any way, shape or form, and we've got worse, and I didn't think that was physically possible.
Yeah, I think the money we spent, if you look at the squad last night, we didn't even fill our subs bench. We had 9 players on the bench, and one of them was a youngster who's currently on loan at Allo Athletic. Congratulations to young Adamson for making the squad, but I think it's a kind of dire reflection on where we are. Rob, Dujon Sterling was added to the European squad after obviously the injury to Cornelius, who looks as if he's going to be out until the end of January, but he's not making the bench. Is this a bit worrying, the fact that he played for the 19s, he didn't look match fit, he gave away a penalty, and now he's been added to the squad in place of guys, like Nadim Bajrami, or dare I say it, even Kieran Dill or Rabbi Matondo, who are match fit, and he's not on the bench. I mean, how is the squad in this state after the amount of money we spent in the summer?
I think just as yourself and Cammy touched on, I think, what happened in the summer has led us down a massive black hole that Danny Rowe has now been tasked with trying to recover from. I think it would be very interesting to see what his traffic light dossier actually says, because I've got a funny feeling that 90% of the players that were brought in the summer will be in that red light category. Taking Danilo off for Asgard, to me last night was crazy. Bringing Connor Barron off, who I thought had probably been one of the best players, if not the best player for us last night, on the park, off for Ant-Man, I think it was. Rothwell didn't even get in the squad last night. The fact that, as you said, if we're not even filling the bench, and Rothwell can't even make the bench.
I think Rowe did say pre-match that he was carrying a knock. Okay,
all right, sorry, I didn't see that, Jack. So okay, fair enough for that. But yeah, I mean, regardless, that we should have enough in terms of depth to at least fill the fill the bench. Again, surprising that for the next 3 games, you must think Sterling will be able to play some sort of part. But again, even just to have him on the bench, even if he wasn't planning on using him, it would have just been good to have him there, just as a kind of, he's back in the first team squad. Similar to Seattle, a couple of weeks ago, even just to see him on the park warming up or down the side track warming up, even if he's got no chance of getting on the actual field of play, would have possibly given the crowd a bit of a boost as well, just to see him back in and around the stadium. But yeah, I certainly think, and we've touched on it before in these pods and obviously other pods on the channel, that I think we have to just draw a line in the sand, unfortunately, due to for the summer business period, and start again. And again, I think Cammy touched on it a couple of weeks ago when I was on. January window is never the best time to try and go and get players, whether that's permanent or on loan. But surely we can utilise the contacts that the manager's got and bring in 2 or 3 signings on the 1st of January on a 6-month loan period, just to get us through the summer, and then you can reevaluate and go again. But yeah, it's we're limping. A lot of channels, not only our own, have said we're going to limp to the January window, and I would probably say the same. I certainly think that we need a number of signings to come in. 1st of January, it can't be after the Celtic game. It can't be midway through or towards the end of the window when maybe more folk will become available. We need players that are locked and loaded and ready to join the squad as soon as the window opens at midnight on the 1st of January. It's unforgivable. As some of the comments are saying, the recruitment team in the summer have just absolutely bombed us out. We've started to recover in the league, and as Cammy says, it's getting there step by step, as a manager says. But for Europe, I think, for me, we've just got to take our medicine and hopefully just not be a complete laughingstock come the end of January when the group stage is finished. I mean, I wouldn't even ask you to go through the playoffs at the moment based on this current squad.
Yeah, I think another indictment on the guys obviously have departed, Stewart and Fairwell. You mentioned obviously getting guys in on loan. I don't even know if we can. The amount they brought in the summer, I'm not sure what the limit is. I believe you're allowed 6 guys on loan. I think what have we got just now, 4 or 5. I mean, that's really even going to limit us in January, which is notoriously a hard time to do business. If you can't get guys, maybe wanting game time for the World Cup on loan, you might struggle to get them here on a permanent deal, which just kind of hamstrings us even further. But we do have some decent players, as hard as it is to believe in. One guy that has shown, despite the sort of malaise over the club this year, has been young Finlay Curtis. On the bench last night, he didn't get on. But the manager did say after the game, Cammy, that he is going to get a chance. Apparently had an injury during international break, which has kind of held him back. But I mean, when you're seeing, Cello Asgard getting on sort of every week or starting and really producing nothing, I mean, surely young Finlay must be worth a chance. Surely he, now that Mikey Moore's injured, must be the next one to come into the team behind him.
I had a concern back at the start of the season. I think I've spoke on this show previously that I thought that Mikey Moore signing would stifle the development. So we're developing a Spurs player, but we're stifling the development of our own player. So we're now in a situation where Mikey Moore's injured. And I'm not saying Mikey Moore's the next Max Dowman, but the guy knows where the back of the net is. And this is a Rangers team that lacks goals. We don't create enough chances, but he's brave. He's got energy. It amazes me that he hasn't had more opportunities off the bench. There's been wee knocks here and there, but I think across the course, I think he came on against Alloa, if I remember rightly, and way back in August. Feels like a lifetime ago, and he scored. His finishing's decent. I just think that he's just wasting time at the moment, to be honest with you. I just think kids at that age need to be getting consistent minutes, and he's barely played in the 4 months so far this season. The manager can say he's going to get his chance, but you need to put him on the park then. You know, Danny Rule has done a decent job with what he's inherited. Last night was actually an improvement on the Roma game, but that tells you how far we've got to go. That was an improvement. Off the ball, we were pressing well first half, all that sort of stuff. But and I think unless we score the first goal, winning any game is going to be difficult because there isn't enough goals in the team. So you're always going to give one away. So, but to get back to the original point, the proof will be in the pudding. There's fixtures midweek across the next 3 or 4 weeks. Squad should be used. We're obviously short of bodies. We're short of goals. We're short of quality. He has to be given an opportunity, but as it is just now, he's just training, and the manager can talk about it, but until he gives the kid an opportunity, then we're just going to keep talking about it. And Lyle Cameron's another one for me that I think should be, obviously had injuries earlier in the season, but I think he could offer far more energy than Thelo Asgard as an example would. So I think Asgard and Cameron are two players. Curtis and Cameron are two players that for me should be getting more opportunities than they have done.
Yeah, I just quickly looked up the stats there. So in 244 minutes of football this year, Finlay Curtis has scored 3 goals. In comparison to Asgard, who's had 1,104, he's had 1 goal. I mean, it shows that he's doing more in the limited time he has than these guys that are getting starts are. But yeah, 1 point from 5. I mean, we'll revisit this, but I think really you need to win the next 2 games quite comfortably to change the goal difference as well, to really be looking at anything going into the Porto game, which in itself is going to be a tough ask. But yeah, the 2 guys really that you can kind of blame for his end up in this situation, Stewart and Felwell, they're both away. I mean, this has been touched on sort of all week on the podcast, so we'll not do too much a deep dive into that. We'll just kind of look at some of the early sort of names being touted for their replacements. We'll start with the CEO, Bob. So the 2 that have been kind of reported today in the Scottish Sun are our current chief financial officer, who's James Taylor. I believe his dad was the CEO of the SFA many moons ago, but I'm not I'm not sure how we feel about more nepotism within the club. We'll just ask you on your opinions on that. I mean, we've seen this numerous times over the last years from Rangers promoting from within. I mean, it's not very inspiring, is it?
No, I mean, I guess he's got familiarity with the club, which would probably help us, in the short term, that he can already knows what he'd be walking into job wise. Obviously, Fraser Thornton's the interim at the moment, and maybe it's better to keep him in situ until the summer. And again, you may be able to reevaluate and have, a good interviewing process with Kavanagh and Marathi and the 49ers group to make sure that we really get the right person in the job for that, as well as the sporting director. But for me, I wouldn't say it would be a bad choice. Again, it's kind of better the devil than the devil you don't. At least he's in the building already, and would have an understanding of kind of what to expect and how to maybe navigate the role. Even in the short term, even if it was a case of saying that he gets it till the summer as a probationary period, and then see where it goes in the summer. I think it's just the state of affairs that we're all that we're in both on and off the park. I think you're looking at putting a plaster on it for the next few months until you're maybe in a better position to appoint a long-term successor. But yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard that one before, Jack, before you mentioned it. So again, to me, it maybe wouldn't be the greatest choice, but at least it wouldn't probably be the worst, considering he's already in the building.
Yep, Cammy. So in the same sort of article from The Sun, the other guy being linked is One that I actually think is quite intriguing, Alan Burrows, who was obviously in charge of Motherwell for a few years, sort of stabilised them. He's now, I believe he's the CEO at Aberdeen, who they're spending a lot more money. They look as if they're in a better sort of financial footing. Their overall setup seems better than it was maybe, before he took over. He's a guy who's got experience running clubs in this league, albeit not at Rangers level. I mean, what do you think about taking a guy from one of the better run clubs in the league, obviously Burrows at Aberdeen?
Wouldn't even be on my short list, to be honest with you. There's a bit of backstory with regard to him. He's, I think, made critical comments about Rangers in the past, so that's just going to be a stick for a lot of people to beat him with from the outset. So wouldn't go down that road. I think there's is it Andrew McKinley that's at Hearts? I think the guy's name, but you're going to do well to get him away from Hearts, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's the one exec within Scottish football. I think the most important thing for me is that it's somebody that's actually done the job before, whether that's at home, abroad, doesn't really matter. An internal promotion, as much as I do think James Taylor spoke very well when he was discussing the finances, and he strikes me, it's quite refreshing to see an executive at Rangers that's actually doing a good job and can actually talk a good game. But I think stick to the job that you're doing, keep in that lane. We done similar with James Bisgrove. We done an internal promotion. That may be a pathway that James Taylor sees for himself, but we're not a club for progression sort of situation. So I think it has to be somebody that's experienced, and if that takes time, it takes time. But neither of the two names that you mentioned would be consideration for me, Jack.
Yeah, I think if things are going well, you can promote from within and get away with it. I think with the way these sort of in-house promotions have gone over the last few years and the performance, I just don't think the fans really buy it. And to be honest, as fans, you don't really want to be worrying about stuff like this. You want this to go in the background and go, oh, yeah, that'll take care of itself. We don't want to be discussing this stuff, but just the state of things over the last few years is where we are. The Rangers review on the sporting director role, I've been linking a guy who worked at Leeds, Victor Orta. I don't know if either of you boys know anything about him. For me, I think it's another one of the ones Selwell hired. All these guys he already knew are the guys involved at Leeds doing the same here. And if he was deemed, not good enough for Leeds, why are we sort of getting the leftovers? I mean, Bob, what would you think about maybe getting a guy from our sort of sister club like that?
Well, it was interesting. I managed to catch up on one of the pods during the week. Craig, one of the journal guys had been mentioning. Obviously, he's down south. He kind of follows Leeds, and gave us a bit of an insight into him. And to be fair, he looked, maybe initially looked good in terms of the money he spent and the players he managed to kind of bring in. But long term, I think he was part of the getting Bielsa sacked, and it kind of turned a bit sour for him. So again, it could be a better the devil at least they've got history with him to bring him in. Again, as I mentioned, it may be better doing it on a temporary basis and reevaluating things in the summer when you've got a bit more time to go through who you really want, and with the manager as well, to see what path you really want to go down, who works well, do they have the right chemistry? Because ultimately the relationship between the manager and the sporting director is key to bringing good players to the club. Obviously we're going down the road again of potentially having a manager have all the say, all the power in bringing players to the club, albeit in the January window rather than the summer window. But I'd certainly trust the manager at the moment to oversee that period in January, rather than have him extend it into the summer window, as I'd like to think by the summer we'd have the two positions filled with people that we feel would take the club forward. But yeah, I wouldn't be against taking somebody from my sister from Leeds or from my sister club in the past, Jack. But I think for us at the moment, we really need probably, and Cammy will probably come in on this, is someone that's got experience and knowledge of the Scottish leagues and or say British leagues, but Scotland, knows what it takes to get the best out of the current group of players and and utilise the league and try and bring the best players in from the league. I know we've touched on Mulligan and the like before, but again, as Cammy said, like Sir Curtis and Cameron, I think should be getting at least an opportunity to show what they've got. I think Mulligan's been doing well for Hibs since he joined in the summer. Again, that's someone that obviously we've missed out on, unfortunately. But again, could have come in and done a job, at least domestically, and try and have that mix between having a domestic squad and a squad for Europe, which again would help us. But yeah, I think it'll certainly be an interesting appointment. Whoever gets a job, Jack.
Yeah, it's a tough one because obviously we had so much hope this summer, got these two guys sort of in right before the summer, and it's just we're back at square one again. I just want to address a sort of comment from John. Shouldn't have let Coppin go. As much as he did do a lot of good work getting us the profits eventually for Igaman and Jefty, there was a lot of sort of misfires as well. The squad I don't think was good enough, and it's the one he built. I don't think we were wrong to let Coppin go. I just think we didn't get the right replacement in for him, which was the issue. But
I think Jack. I think Jack. He was also given quite a wide scope. He was having to essentially do everything. Sort of situation. I think he clearly showed he was decent scouting, played identification, that sort of thing. We'll just gloss over Oscar Cortez, but I think that he saw his progression into that role. But it's similar to what I said previously. It's like somebody that's almost cutting their teeth at Rangers. We need proving. And as much as Coppin done okay to a point, and yeah, he's maybe doing a decent job at his new club, but overall, it was probably a 50-50 performance at Rangers, to be honest with you. So I think as a Rangers support, I think we have a tendency to always go backwards and look at players or look at employees that we've had and say, it would have been better if we had kept a hold. We just have to try and look forward and forget about anybody that's left and try to start by employing the right people on and off the park, because the last 3 years we have made poor decisions, and that's why we are where we are now.
Yeah, I think if you look at the squad we had 3 years ago when we last played Braga, it would absolutely wipe the floor with the one we've got just now. It wouldn't even be a contest. It would be over within 10 minutes. But it's up to us to kind of try and turn that tide, get us back on track. A couple other names mentioned: David Weir online. I think he's just took up a role at Strasbourg, and the other one I've heard mentioned is Gordon Greer from Brighton. But I don't see him leaving a job in that sort of level to come and be a role at Ibrox. So yeah, we're going to the January window in a position where we don't really have a sporting director. So, but it's a big January window. Who do we actually think is going to be in charge of recruitment? I think it's all going down to Danny Rowe, and we've seen obviously with Michael Beale a few years ago when a manager's got full control how that can go. Cammy, how do you think Rowe will approach this window, and do you think he'll have guys from above chipping in?
Joe, it's funny. Somebody raised a point on Twitter this morning about the business of the summer, and I said it makes Michael Beale in 2023 look good. And we all thought that Michael Beale that summer when he signed Lammers and Dessers and all that sort of stuff, we couldn't actually get any worse. Danny Rule spoke about it, and I think he said that there's obviously the team of recruitment. I'm assuming Dan Purdy, who was obviously brought in by Kevin Thelwell, will still be heading that up. But I'm hoping that Danny Rule has an influence, I think, to to be honest with you, I think Danny Rowell's had an influence in the change of Kevin Thelwell losing his job. I'm not saying he fired the bullets, but I think he's potentially had a list of players put on his desk that these are the players that we've sort of identified for January, and he's went, well, I'm not interested in any of them. So I always think that it shouldn't just be the manager. There has to be a bit of almost collaborative agreement. There's no any point in me signing a player for you, Jack, if you don't know how he's going to fit into your team. You have to be on the same page. But I don't think he'll have carte blanche with regard to that. But I think Dan Purdy is the head of I think he's the head director of recruitment, or we've got that many directors I can't keep track, to be perfectly honest with you. And there's obviously a team around about that data, looking at the recruitment and what have you. But I'm hoping that he can make use of his contacts in Germany. And if there's maybe anybody playing in Barcelona that he's mate Hansi, is it Hansi Flick at Barcelona that he's experienced with, So we'll just have to wait and see. But the spine of the side, I mean, it's the spine of the side. I said this in 2023, 2024, 2025. Until we get a situation where we have a stronger spine. And listen, Stevie Wonder could tell you where Rangers have needed to improve, but somehow we managed to actually completely avoid it. And if you can get a stronger spine across the next two windows, at least it gives you something to build on. But we don't have a strong spine, and that's, we leak goals at the back end, and if not for Jack Butland, I dread to think where we would be. And we have absolutely, I honestly can't remember the last time I watched a Rangers team that's so powder puff and so lacking in goal threat. We've got 3 strikers in the training centre, and you could probably not even make a decent striker combining the 3 of them. It's actually shocking that the state that we have allowed ourselves, and it's not just been this summer, it's been year on year on year, and it's failings of multiple people that have brought us to where we are. But I think Danny Rowell will be involved in the recruitment, but I don't think it'll be he's playing Football Manager and he identifies 5 or 6 players and he goes and signs them. I think he'll work with the people at the club, but hopefully he makes use of his own contacts as well.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Purdy there when I talked about that. So we do still have some sort of structure, which is good. It's not going to be akin to Michael Beale where it's a manager doing everything, which is good. So there's been one sort of transfer rumour coming out today, Rob. It's for a left back from Turkey called Yilmaz. Not the one you're thinking of. A player called Berkay Yilmaz, a Turkish youth international, 20 years old, plays for Nuremberg on loan from Freiburg. Now he's a left back, which is an area we do need to target. 4 goal contributions from left back. He's only 20 years old. Sounds very, very similar to Jane Magoma to me. I would like to get someone a bit more established in there. Just any thoughts on that rumour, and do you think the left back's a priority going into this window, Bob?
First of all, I think a left back is priority. I think to Cammy's laughter, I don't think we should be going anywhere near anyone called Yilmaz ever again, unless they're the absolute superstar. We can't keep going down the road of bringing it, and again, I understand the business model and the player trading model that we're obviously trying to adhere to, but to bring in a 20-year-old left back to back up or potentially rotate with a 19-year-old left back who's on loan, to me doesn't sit very well, because between both of them they'll be inconsistent. I would rather, as you said, Jack, go for someone with experience, and again touch back on, try and go and get somebody from the Scottish League that's had game time this season, that's been playing in a relatively stable team. You know, again, for a, you know, even just for a backup and get a proper, to get maybe a bigger name in the summer, or a player that you're able to maybe develop more in the summer, but have someone with experience come in January. I think it's not being understated how critical this signing window will be for us going forward this season and obviously into the future. I think we need to utilise the manager's contacts at these clubs. I mean, I joked about it a couple of weeks ago. If we could go and get a couple of centre backs from Germany, you know, to build a spine, or a left back and a centre back, don't care. Just go and get anybody that you can that's of a decent level, because they're going to be better than what we've got. Nothing against this boy from Turkey. I don't know. I don't know what he's like, Jack. But I certainly wouldn't be going down that road in January. Maybe in the summer. You know, if you're able to get someone with experience come in for 6 months. Again, I think we're struggling to get to the January window to have people come in, and we can't afford to bring in project players. We've tried to do that in the summer to a certain degree, and it's just not worked out. So I certainly don't hope that this manager rues the mistakes of his predecessor and looks to bring in more experience.
Yeah, for me at left back, I think the obvious one would be Josh Doig, playing Scottish, playing in Italy. Cammy, I seen a smile there. I don't know if that was related to Dado's comment there on what's up with Greg Taylor. What would your thoughts be on that one? He's not getting much of a game out in Greece. Is it time to bring him back to his boyhood club?
My first laugh with regard to the Yilmaz rumour, which I had missed, that would be so Rangers to actually sell Ridvan Yilmaz for 2 million and buy him back for 4 million, you know. But Greg Taylor, how I could actually fill the next 10 minutes. What's up with Greg Taylor? No, that's not a road that you can go down at all. He'll also be earning a pretty penny in Greece. Left back, it's another part of the fact that we've allowed Yilmaz and Jeffrey and Robbie Fraser all to leave in the one summer. My God. I mean, I'm not saying Robbie Fraser's the next Nuno Mendes, but see, if Robbie Fraser had stayed, at least you would have another natural left-footed option. You know, Robbie Fraser's done the right thing for his career. He's getting out and he's playing regular football, but that's all the headlines from the summer are over Shermiti and Majowski and Asgard and Giga and the money that we've actually spent. The players that you've actually allowed to leave without bringing in, you know, I understand why Robbie Fraser left from the club's point of view and from Robbie Fraser's point of view. It's the fact that you've left yourself with Jayden Magoma as your only natural left back that's there. And Cornelius could have filled in. Cornelius we're probably now not going to see until February. But so, no, I think it'd be good to bring somebody in that can play left back. But again, there's so many things needing fixed. What is the top priority for January? The top priority for me is a centre half and a centre forward. If we can do that, then and you're still in some form of contention. Suter, for all his faults, would be playing. Suter with a decent centre half alongside him, and Ali McCoist, age 26, playing up front. Then we're fine. You know, Ali McCoist, age
no
60,
asking for much.
See, to be honest with you, Ali McCoist, age 62, would probably be more of a goal threat than what we've got at this precise moment.
Yeah. So. Sorry, Rob. Cammy's touched on there, centre half and a striker. If we're only able to bring in, say, three players in the summer, we've obviously touched on a left back. What would be the other two positions you'd be looking to get filled first and foremost?
I can't disagree with what Cammy said. I think, you know, for the upcoming window, you've got to look at a left back, a centre back, and a centre forward. I mean, we've touched on it a number of times. Between Majowski, Danilo and Chermiti, you're talking about the best part of £20 million that we've spent on 3 strikers that have scored less than 10 goals this season. And they've probably even I'm going to say, I think it's at 6. I think it was reported that they've scored between them this season. That's horrific from August to November. Come December, scored 6 goals between your front 3 is horrendous. And then just reflects badly on the recruitment in the summer. Again, are we playing to these guys' strengths? I don't know. But then that everything ties into the recruitment. Even I said that to one of the guys last night. Even if we'd kept Dessers, I understand Egeman wanted to go, but to let him go and let Dessers go as well. I know everyone's got their Dessers had his critics, but you had guaranteed goals off of him. The fact he scored 29 goals last year, and you're letting him go without having a proven replacement at that point, whether it was Chermiti or Majowski, again, is criminal. Even if he wasn't hitting the heights in Europe, at least domestically, he would have got. He's a type of striker that would have got a scrappy goal here or there, because that's the way he was. That's he's somewhat physical and he's able to run the channels and bring people into play. I just think it's been an absolute horror show, as Cammy's touched on before. But for me, in this window, if you're only giving me three positions, you've got to do left back, centre back, and a striker. I think the midfield could probably be left for the moment. I think we've got enough there to kind of get us through. Again, if I had an open checkbook, I'd go and replace quite a lot of players. I'd also be looking at these loan deals to see if we can end some of them prematurely and get them sent back, so we can utilise the loans that we're allowed to have.
So, Cammy, I seen you were chatting there. I mean, Nico Raskin last night had another of his meh games. He's not really reaching the heights of last year. 18 months left in his deal. Is he someone you'd look to maybe ship out to get some more funds to spend on shaping the squad in January?
I think if we're not in a contention to compete for a league title, and I know Nico would probably rather, he spoke about, seeing Rangers getting money and what have you, but there'll be teams. January's a daft window, but there's plenty of money down south, and I think there'll be interest from teams. I think Spurs would definitely be interested in Nico Raskin. Raskin's a myth, to be perfectly honest with you. He's got a reputation that belies what he's actually done as a Rangers player. He gave us 6 really good months last season, has managed to get himself into the Belgium squad first choice, so fair play to him. For me, he's going through the motions now, and I think the fact that James Tavernier is the main creator and the top goal scorer and all that sort of stuff. I mean, Cassie's spot on. Tav has created more chances from open play than Barndy or Raskin together, and a few people in the comments have spoke about it. Connor Barnes, the one out of the 3 that should have stayed on last night. I didn't understand. I understood why he took a midfield player off to try and get a forward player on, but he took the wrong one off. And for me, I would have taken Raskin off last night. His passing isn't the strongest part of his game, but he's given the ball away far too easily. And if we could get 10 to 15 million for Raskin in January, I would. Villa's another one, I think, but I think they've already got Tielemans and Onana, and they've got quite a bit of cover there. So I don't think they're also a club that's they need to watch their finances with regard to what they can actually spend. So I don't think that's a move that would be a good footballing move, because I think Nico's going to have to go to a team if he goes in January where he can continue to play, and that's why I think he'll probably want to end the season with Rangers, because it'll almost protect himself. But the three positions, and I'll say it again: centre half, centre midfield, and centre forward across the next 2 windows. Get a stronger spine, and you can build from that. Watson for Raskin, I don't think that's a like for like sort of replacement. Watson probably of a comparable level to Lyle Cameron for me. It would be another box ticking signing that you get another Scottish player that you're not going to play and is just going to be part of the squad. But if Raskin was to sign a new 3-year contract, I'd still be wanting a dominant midfield player that can actually pass the ball and that can actually create and could almost be circa Stephen Davis. But these sort of players don't grow on trees. But the spine will be the key for me now and moving forward.
Yeah, there was a comment about Glenn Kamara available in January. I think that's Raskin. If you remember Kamara in his last season, he was still there, but he wasn't doing the things that got him to that sort of high ceiling and phoned it in. And I don't think that's one we should go back to. Ross McCrory, I think, would be the same as Watson. I think he's decent. I'm just not sure if he'd be a starter. So we'll wrap up the transfer stuff. I'm sure there'll be plenty more of that for the summer. And I know the guys are going to do a sort of members pod on the feasibility of expanding Ibrox. There's been some talk of that. We'll just sum up the news. Been some talk of that again during this week. And Scotland are looking to host the Women's World Cup in 2035. Ibrox is one of the grounds sort of being mentioned for that, which obviously is whatever extra money you can get in for the stadium is fine with me. Couple of last things. Dick Advocaat got to go into the World Cup at the age of 78. Curacao qualifying thanks to, he wasn't even there. They got a draw against Jamaica, enough to see them through. They've got a population less than Paisley, Cammy. He just loves football. He just doesn't stop. Old Dick, does he?
I can't actually wait for Scotland to draw Curacao in the World Cup and probably lose. Scotland to lose to a place that's the size of Paisley. Oh, fantastic. 78-year-old. It's a bit like Roy Hodgson. Enjoy the fact you've made a few quid. You've had a great career. Put your feet up, enjoy your life. Go back to Holland. There's plenty to keep you entertained across there. You know what I mean? Listen, Dick Advocaat for probably 18 months to 2 years as Rangers manager. We played some unbelievable football. He spent a lot of money, and it didn't end the way that he got a bit excited with Football Manager spending money as if it was going out of fashion. But he's a guy that's a proper football man and proper experience, and that's a great achievement for him. I would imagine end his managerial career at the World Cup in the summer. So well done to him.
Yep, and final bit of topic today, Rob. The Celtic game, the last one before the split, has obviously been moved to a lunchtime Sunday kickoff. It kind of always happens now, but I mean, is it something you think we can get past? I mean, it's been 45 years since the 1980 Cup final. It's been 15 years since that late kickoff at Parkhead with McCoist and Lennon and Juve and everything. Do you think we're going to get any sort of midweek or Saturday Old Firms back anytime soon?
I'd hope so, Jack. I think the way both teams are at the moment, they're very much more diluted than the teams of the past. I think although there's passion in the stands, I'm not sure there's the same passion on the park. There's certainly not as many Scottish-based players playing for either side that really get the Old Firm games. So again, that may play a part in allowing us to move the fixture to a more favourable time. And just on Curacao, obviously former player Junior Neil Buchanan as part of that squad. So nice to see a former Rangers player getting to go to the World Cup, hopefully alongside John Souttar and Conor Barron from Scotland. So I'm sure Dick Advocaat's I'm sure they've had a wee chat about Rangers during their time at the international scene. But yeah, from your point, Jack, I think it would be good to see us go back to a later kickoff. But then you would just hope that the fans behave from both sides. I'm not indicating anything from either side. I think both sides need to behave to allow that to move forward into a better time slot.
Yeah, I think we had the one, obviously, right after COVID, the famous Barisic game, where he had to kind of they had to change it into the later kick-off, but I think that was just Celtic fans at that one. But we'll see moving forward. I'm hopeful. We'll just finish up by thanking the pod sponsors. It's proudly sponsored by the good guys over at the famous Bluebells Bar in Porto del Carmen and glorious Lanzarote. So if you're over in Lanzarote, you'll definitely find a warm welcome and a cold drink at the Rangers Bar in Puerto del Carmen. Bluebells is a family-friendly bar, eat, drink, chill or party, and yes, they show every Rangers game live and sometimes even this podcast. There's nothing better than sitting overlooking the ocean with a beer or a cocktail in your sun-kissed balcony, or grabbing a bit of shade if it's too hot. So when you're in Lanzarote, do pop in and say hi. Everyone likes a bit of sun near Christmas, so if you're booking up, I'd head to Lanzarote and check in with the Bluebells. Just finally going to wish Rangers luck on Sunday against Falkirk. If we win, we're right back on Celtic coattails and everything's jolly and rosy. If we lose, we could be as low as 6. So that's thumbs up Rangers this season. But just thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments. And remember, every night is journal night.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.